What is up, wrestling fans? It is that time of the week for the FLZ Wrestling Team to talk all things pro wrestling and call it right down the middle. That's right, it's time for this week's edition of FLZ presents 607 TWS, the wrestling show. And we are live on the Nerd Initiative. We are live on the FLZ YouTube channel and I think Twitch. Right now, I think we're having a little problem with X. I think that Ken might have gotten in an argument with Mr. Musk, and who knows? So we're going to just leave it there. And of course, I am your host. My name, of course, is Rich. Joining me in the co-pilot's chair, as she does each and every week, she is the hunter of the Pokemans because she's got to catch them all. She is the connoisseur the guru of cosplay. And more importantly, the connoisseur of all things pro grappling. It is the one and only Miss Sammy. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Rich. Listen, we can't have these in-ring botches. Every wrestler loves that term. The botches.
Listen,
gotta have a clean show tonight, baby.
We're live. We're live, gal. We're live. Sometimes it's gonna happen. That's the only problem with doing a live show. Got to do it live. To peek behind the curtain, part of it's because I was fighting for my life over here. Before we went on air, for some reason, like my throat got dry and I was coughing all over the place. I'm like, I hope I don't cough live. So there, sorry. I was trying to live, Sammy, and I messed up the entrance a little bit. Jeez.
He's got the coal miner's lung.
Oh, coal miner's glove on a pole match is coming up later this month, I guess. I don't know, maybe. But enough of the pre-banter here. Let's talk about the place who powers us, and that, of course, is FanlightZone.com. Click that QR code up above my head and go ahead and visit the website. There you can find comic books, more blogs and stuff on wrestling and more. So check it out. It's a happening, and of course, new comic book day is one of our biggest things. Is we are comic books and pop culture, and a little bit of wrestling sprinkled in. Okay, but I guess wrestling is kind of pop culture in a way, so it works out at the same time. And of course, if you are watching us on YouTube, you're already here. If you're on Twitch, make sure you follow us over there as well. But make sure you hit up us on the social medias, and of course, go over to the YouTube channel if you're not already there, and make sure you smash that subscribe button. Click the bell icon for notifications so you know whenever we go live or whenever a new video gets posted. And, of course, to tap the thumbs up to get those likes to help us fight the algorithm and wrestle it down so we can, grow this thing. Grow this thing out, Sammy. Grow it out. Well, let's dive right in. Let's start jumping in. Let's talk some pro wrestling. And this past week, we had a huge night. And I guess from what I'm gathering from the internet, maybe not everybody thought it was huge, but let's dive right in and talk about our thoughts of the first ever Thursday night Impact. Of course, tonight at 9:00. So hopefully, usually we're trying to finish up before then, is the second episode of Thursday Night Impact on AMC. But TNA's Thursday Night Impact debuted last week. And I don't want to go through the card. I don't want to go match for match. That's not what this is about. I just want to talk about it because the thoughts around the internet was that it was underwhelming. And I'm going to say something first, and then, it's not really a contradiction, but I think that wrestling fans, us ourselves included, have gotten spoiled and jaded sometimes and think that things have to be bigger than what they are. And I think that on one hand, you're going to find out that I don't think that the launch went as perfect as it could. However, I think that a lot of people's expectation, a lot of reason why people are kind of attacking super chat, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a lot of us psyched ourselves up thinking that something bigger was going to happen. And I mean, we're guilty of it too. I mean, the pundits and the people, the talking heads, as we say, the sheets, if you will, the dirt sheets, if you want to be that guy or gal. The thing is, we give our opinions, and I mean, as wrestling fans, we talk and give our opinions to each other as fans as well. But I think we talk ourselves up, and we've talked about this in the past, Sammy, where people get neither of us really liked that first episode of Raw of the year. I'm only bringing this up because we didn't like it for the reasons. Great main event. Rest of the show felt eh. in Triple H using the famous, oh, it's going to start in the next, era or whatever the hell he's going with. Right. And it didn't. But I think the internet got more mad about it because there was no Chris Jericho. There was no giant reveal or surprise. And I think that's what happened for TNA as well. Everybody kind of thought that there was going to be this giant, but nobody promised that. And I think that's the unfair part. So I wanted to get that out of the way. I really did think as wrestling fans, we need to temper our expectations. Not everything can be a super huge surprise. Not everything can have like the massive comeback. You know what I mean? But with that being said, I do still feel that the Thursday Night Impact was a little underwhelming, but I want to get your thoughts and opinions first before I dive into further on that. I just wanted to get the groundwork done. So, Sammy, what was your thoughts and opinions of the first ever Thursday Night Impact last week?
Yeah, I think overall there were a couple of choices that, one could really question. The debut wrestling show for TNA, it was a little lacking in the wrestling department. And I think the Dixie Carter thing was certainly a choice. But overall, if you think about it, you got a killer main event. That main event stands up, with any other main event for, a debut show or some sort of a big highlight type show like the first Raw of the year. The main event was killer. You did get a big surprise. TNA reviewed, unveiled a new person, a new signing, and Daria Ray is going to be an authority figure type person. There's something she did very well in WWE, so it's nice to see her getting back into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, even us, we could be guilty of it. When we think of these big new debuts, you immediately think of some male wrestler, and it doesn't have to be. Fun fact, 2025 was the year of women's wrestling. It was a much stronger year for women's wrestling overall than it was for men's wrestling across the board. This show kind of had a little bit of everything. Was there some choices I didn't love? Yeah, you probably could have had a little more wrestling. But at the end of the day, it's a debut show, and they did what they were going to do. And that's the important part. And people did tune in.
Listen, I agree 110% with you of what you just said. I didn't feel like I felt like they were missing something, but it wasn't to make it bigger. I thought that the show went very well as far as a wrestling show. For a first episode of something, that's what I'm saying. It was missing something. Maybe not a big surprise or a huge whatever. I felt like the finish to the world title match in the main event, I feel like even if that was a little more exciting, because I felt like the finish was kind of flat. The match itself was fine, but the finish was flat. I feel like they could have used that. So like even something like that, it wasn't necessarily, oh, we need the return of, as we joked about last week, Chris Jericho to TNA. But and I don't think so. And I thought that it was a huge deal. Elena Black returning to the ring after taking a little bit of time off. I know, very polarizing figure at times, especially to the internet, but still a very accomplished and very good women's pro wrestler. I love having Daria back as a heel authority figure to play off well with Santino Marella, because obviously that goes very well. So I think that they did some really good things storyline wise. I do like the fact the call of making Mike Santana champion to end the show. Once again, like I said, I just thought it ended a little flat. I liked it better. And I like kicking off the show with AJ. I think that was good enough. I don't think we needed to go above and beyond. And once again, I didn't want to see a ton of like WWE hands in it, if that makes sense. It was cool to have AJ because AJ was the franchise for so long. Okay, that's fine. But I don't need TNA to be WWE light either. I think they need to forge their own brand.
Yeah, I saw some people commenting that this really felt a lot like a WWE show, especially like the modern and the current iterations of Raw and SmackDown. And I guess if you stare at these things enough, I'm sure you could come to that conclusion. But at the end of the day, was it perfect? No, but I think it was a strong enough launching pad where people are going to tune in this week, where they just get back to what they've been doing really good, which is storytelling and in-ring product. And we said that all last year, that TNA had the best balance of the two out of the big wrestling brands, and I think they're primed to continue to do that this year.
Oh, I agree. Like I think that there was definitely some really cool stuff to come out of this event. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, like I said, to me, it was just missing something to making it like this all-star debut. Like, once again, you don't have to go all the way out. You don't have to do a killer amount of things. I just think that even if it was, like I said, the main event ending a little more exciting, I think people would have buzzed about it a lot longer. And I mean, it's hard to get the talk cycle in wrestling these days because so much of it's going on. You know, this past weekend, I'm wearing a GCW hoodie. GCW had 2 shows, one on Saturday and Sunday. You know, so you also had the pay-per-view, which we're going to talk about here in a second, Genesis on Saturday. So,
well,
like,
and, if you think about it, like, yeah, and if you think about it, we talked to death these past couple of years about how AEW in a way kind of ruined the big surprise because they just kept going to that well so many times, and they did it really successfully a lot of times. But then it got to a point where it was like, that's not really a big surprise anymore. Running the big show out there is not really a big surprise. So, to go out there and do it in this manner, makes a little more sense. And when you have that big surprise, then it means something.
See, that's why I said that. I don't think it was missing the surprise, and I think that was what the internet was kind of more upset about, and I'm not. Yeah. But I still think that, like, for a debuted episode, it was just missing something. I still gave it a strong. I think it's strong. I think that they set up and fundamentally we're going to get story. We got storylines out of it. It's going to create future storylines as well. We got enough out of that first episode, and it definitely built and hyped up Genesis.
Yeah.
So it succeeded on those levels. I'm just being nitpicky for being number 1. You know what I mean? If it was episode number 2, I think we're talking about a whole different beast. I think me and you right now are like, oh, for a second episode, this is great. You know what I mean? But I think the unfair part is saying there was no surprises or lack of big surprises, and the fairer part is saying you should have still treated it like a first ever episode, because it was. I understand you've been doing Impact forever, but this is your first on returning to television, real television. I'm sorry, they've been on like tiny itty bitty companies for a while. AMC's a little bit bigger than what they've been dealing with for a little while, so I'm going to say that. All right, speaking of which, let's talk about it. We do want to break down the pay-per-view that went on Saturday, and that, of course, was TNA Genesis, coming to you from Dallas, Texas. Everything coming from the same building, which is not a bad thing, which would be the Curtis Caldwell Center. And technically it's Garland, Texas, but we all know it's Dallas. That went down this past Saturday night. We are going to do, our famous rundown, Sammy. So we're not going to break down match by match. We're just going to talk about the event as a whole, but I'm going to go down the full card of results right now. So here is the results from Genesis for those of you who did not know. There was 2 pre-show matches, the first of which was a 4-way match for the TNA International Championship. Your champion going in representing NXT with Ariana Grace in his corner, Channing Stacks Lorenzo defending the title against Eric Young, BDE, and the debut of KJ Orso, which was I'm very excited about. We'll talk about that in a minute. This match got 6 minutes and 23 seconds. At the end of the day, your winner and still TNA International Champion, Channing Stacks Lorenzo. The other pre-show match was a tag team match in the Knockouts division where Tessa Blanchard and Mila Moore would defeat Indy Hartwell and Vicious Vicky Veneto by pinfall in 7 minutes and 55 seconds. By the way, Robert Stone and Victoria Crawford in the corner of Tessa Blanchard and Mila Moore. Interesting. We're going to talk about that. All right, next up, the show kicked off. AJ Francis defeating Rich Swann, 12 minutes and 19 seconds. Then we had a singles match where Mustafa Ali would defeat Elijah in 9 minutes and 35 seconds. Next up in the JDC's retirement match, Eddie Edwards, diehard Eddie Edwards, would defeat JDC 17 minutes and 16 seconds. Then we would have an intergender match where Ryan Nemeth would defeat Morrissey 5 minutes and 21 seconds before going to the TNA Knockouts World Championship match where Lei Ying Lee would defeat Zarya in 14 minutes and 23 seconds. Follow that up with the TNA Tag Team Championships on the line as the Hardy Boys would take on the Righteous, Vincent and Dutch. And after 12 minutes and 40 seconds, your winners and still the TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Hardys. Then we would have a 3-way dance. Originally, this was supposed to be for the X Division title, but there was issues with Leon Slater getting back into the States. So taking his place was Joe Hendry, and Joe Hendry would defeat Cedric Alexander and Moose in 15 minutes and 21 seconds. And last but certainly not least, in the main event of the evening, it was a Texas death match for the TNA World Championship. Your champion, Mike Santana taking on former champion Frankie Kazarian. Nick Nemeth was your special guest referee. And after 19 minutes and 13 seconds, your winner and still TNA World Champion, Mike Santana. So there's the rundown of the card. I'm going to turn it over to you first. What was your thoughts on TNA Genesis?
I liked it. I enjoyed it. There was a little bit of everything here, and storyline movement. A couple of things that, my personal take, I would have done differently, but overall, I think it was a solid show.
Yeah, I agree. A very good show. I thought that the pre-show was a stacked pre-show. Very good matches in the pre-show, which was I was really, really, really shocked about. Yeah, you had a match for the international championship. KJ Orso making a debut. I understand, not a gigantic name. The former Fuego del Sol. Now his new heel gimmick, I love it. I mean, once again, a lot of GCW. That's really where that heel gimmick was really created and honed. And I think he's going to do big things in TNA with that gimmick, because I think that gimmick is really money, in my opinion. And also, like I said, it was kind of interesting seeing Robert Stone in the corner of Tessa Blanchard. Robert Stone he's NXT, he's the WWE guy. Tessa Blanchard, there's always going to be that air of controversy, right? So you never know. You never know. Talking about the main card, I really did enjoy. I thought that they did a really good emotional job with Eddie Edwards and JDC. I thought that was the very, very interesting. Like, I didn't think I was going to be that like, oh man, that kind of sucks that JDC's done, but I was there. So I'm not saying it was like, oh man, my favorite wrestler retired, but I thought they did a good job of bringing retirement match energy to a match. Mustafa Ali and Elijah was a really good match. I think we called it that we both wanted to see big things out of Mustafa Ali with his re-signing. And I think that maybe this is an indication that we're going to get that. And I hope so. And the women's knockouts title match with Lee versus Zarya, I think Lee really showed that she's got some stuff. I love what she's done since she's been in TNA, and definitely showing why she's a champ. Zarya coming up short again. I'm almost at the point, and I understand she's an NXT star, and I understand that this is not an NXT show, but I think overall I'm kind of at this point where we're like, we brought her over. We're supposed to be treating her like she's the next big Australian monster, a la mommy herself, Rhea Ripley. But when is she? And once again, I understand it's not NXT and it's not WWE, but
right,
she's got to get a big win somewhere, or at least a mid win, mid card, mediocre, whatever you want to call it, win.
Right, and I mean, even you yourself, we've talked about this at length. Like, most of the time, wins and losses don't matter, but that's also it's a true statement, but then it's not a true statement, because if you see someone going out there and they keep losing and they're not having any sort of impact or whatever, it kind of does matter. And I think that's where we're at with that, where it's like, all right, you kind of got to give me something here.
I will always say this to kind of put a button on that statement, because I feel like it's something that gets tossed around, and knowing it from my time of working in wrestling, where we were with it. Wins and losses do not matter, and I will stand by that statement, except for one thing, and that is building and also creating and taking away heat. Because there's face heat, there's heel heat. You have to do something, and wins and losses only matter then. Perfect example is winning nefariously. Cheating to win is great for a heel. Why? Because it builds heat. So I would much prefer a cheat to win scenario over a loss if I'm building my next top heel, if that makes sense. Yes. And if I'm trying to build what I'm assuming Zarya is a babyface currently, but I'm assuming that's what they're looking for, is kind of the next iteration, or having two Rhea Ripleys on the lineup. And Zarya does have those talents and those capabilities, but I feel like the reason why a win would matter is we need to heat her up somewhere. Like, she needs to get heated up. And right now she's just Sol Ruka's best friend. She is in the friend role, and the friend zone is not good in any situation, right?
And that can get scary, especially for someone that is a younger talent like that, where it's like you just kind of get lost in the sauce. It's a little different when you're someone like a Finn Balor that we talked about at length last week.
Oh, yeah.
probably touch on again, where it's like it wouldn't take long to really make him feel incredibly incredible again, because he's got an established track record. But when you're young and you don't have that track record, it can get scary.
When you're Finn Balor, that's where wins and losses definitely don't matter. You get to a point in your career, like a Seth Rollins can lose 15 matches, 20 matches, 30 matches, 40 matches in a row, and it's not going to matter. A Finn Balor, you can have him go on an epic 100-match losing streak. As long as the matches are entertaining, nobody's going to care if that 101 match ends with him getting a victory and winning a belt. Nobody would care. Nobody's going to be like, well, he lost 100 matches and he won the belt. No, because it for guys like that, it takes it just that quick. They have equity. AJ Styles is on that list. A lot of guys, is on that list. CM Punk, going on and on. We could go both channels. MJF's on that list, which we'll be talking about in a minute. But, right now, when you're building somebody, I don't care if she loses. Just like I said, by what you're doing, you're putting her in the friend zone, and that's doing a disservice. Although she made Lee look amazing in this match, and I'm not saying Lee didn't look good on her own. She did a great job, but kudos goes to your opponent too when you look good. And I just want to talk real quickly, touch on Joe Hendry and Cedric Alexander and Moose. Joe Hendry, we talked about that possibly being the pick, was the right one. I actually liked it a lot better after seeing it, because I went, oh, okay, so we're not ruining it with some random WWE guy. We're bringing in a guy who has meant a lot to TNA, and Joe Hendry is now just in WWE. So you can still look at him as a TNA talent, because it's not like it's far removed. So I think that worked out well. Main event, though, really dug the story there. I liked their match. I liked the Texas Death Match better than the match on Thursday night. I was real nervous, because running back matches 2 times real quick like that, I wish they would have done something. We talked about it last week. I wish they would have done something else. Even still, I wish they would have done something else. However, pleasantly surprised. Loved Nick Nemeth's role in this match. Loved it. Thought it was great. And I can't wait to see where this goes. The Nick Nemeth being able to cash in anytime still exists. And then you have Mike Santana, who, if you're going into a new era, he is kind of your new franchise. So I dig 110%. No complaints from me about Mike Santana being.
And I really love how, 2 former AEW guys, and I mean, obviously they've been other places too, but 2 AEW guys that bet on themselves and are just absolutely crushing it out there. And that's not a knock on AEW. It's just 2 guys that went out there and said, no, I think I can do more, and are out there and performing it at an amazing level, which is just amazing to see.
Oh, absolutely. And I and it's not even a shot. Sometimes you just have to go somewhere else. You have to go sometimes you have to go somewhere else and reinvent yourself. Yes. And whether that's TNA or WWE or the Indies, Matt Cardona, perfect example. You go and reinvent yourself. And then other times you don't have to reinvent yourself, because you're there. You're the star. You're the belle of the ball. You might be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Yeah, we're talking MJF. Great segue there. Great segue. MJF. I'm not going to go through his whole promo. This past week on Dynamite, once again, Dynamite, solid show. We're not here to just go over results. That's why we don't just talk about the shows, but I will say it. I have been watching AEW. I've been a fan. It's not that I have not been a fan, but I had a little bit of time where I would just catch the highlights sometimes, or watch the recording and fast forward a little bit. But man, Destination TV has been Dynamite in the last couple of months, and it's continuing. So I want to put that over. But there was one thing that I've really liked about Dynamite and AEW in general right now, is that they're doing a great job of weekly storytelling and really making you care about the people on their product and their roster, which is something that has been missing for quite some time. And I want to give that a highlight and an applause, because we always like to call it down the middle and say, hey, this is when some things are going well and this is when things are going bad. And I really was at first perplexed that their next big pay-per-view isn't until March. I noticed that. No January pay-per-view, no February pay-per-view. Next one is Revolution, and it is in March. The reason I'm bringing this up is that, I don't know, as good as Dynamites have been, Sammy, before I jump into MJF, I know I put the graphic up, but it kind of got sidetracked by this. And I want to know your opinion now. As good as Dynamites have been, do you think it might be a better call for them to maybe scale back the PPVs, maybe scale them back 8-6 a year? Don't know.
100% agree. And I think I think not only that, because of there is a cost to them. You know, you have to pay for them and such. And again, we said you got to pay for them for WWE as well. So let's call it right down the middle, right? But AEW has had a hard time with storytelling. They have really done a lot of hard work to improve upon that. And if you are taking the time to build something and have the time to properly fill TV, which they do, they have plenty of TV time to do it, and then you get down the road to a big pay-per-view blow-off, instead of trying to jam it in 1 month, because they've suffered from it, WWE suffered from it, TNA suffered from it, everyone suffered from that format. WCW back in the day, they all suffered from that format where it's like, okay, we got a pay-per-view in 3 weeks and we only have like 2 matches lined up. We have to start stuffing it, and we have to just kind of start making things work. And overall, companies have made it work, but it's not always fun. This time, you got a lot of time to build some things up. So I think it helps keep them honest and keeps them on this strong storytelling, track. And kudos to them. I know they care about the money. Obviously, financial is the business. You need that. But from a stability and growth and health of the company standpoint, I think it's good for them to do this, because it just, the storytelling matters. Is what keeps people invested. The big flashy moves, like you said, everyone can do the moves, but you got to tell the story to get there.
True. So now I'll put a graphic back up just to remind people, because I did get off the track, but I thought that was a cool off track to get. We have MJF. And then you notice I titled this, "The Champ Puts Everyone on Notice." And I on a show that I'm enjoying, here comes the champ with this beautiful triple B. I love MJF as champion, by the way. I have, going back to his original run, and now watching his current run, which we're still in its infancy, right? I sit back and I go, man, MJF, and I know people are going to take this out of context, so I'm going to try to explain it. MJF has that Ric Flair drip, if you will. What I mean by that, and I'm trying to say not being like Ric Flair, because he's not like Ric Flair.
No.
There's only one Nature Boy, right? Well, there's many Nature Boys, but there's only one Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Technically, there's a lot of Nature Boys. I mean, I know that before the chat or the internet gets on me about it. Yes, I know there's a ton of Nature Boys. But anyways, what I'm saying with MJF, though, is MJF has a way of carrying himself with that belt that is very dignified. When you look at him, he looks like a champion. He acts like a champion. He carries himself like a champion. And I think people forget that he's still under the age of 30. I think a lot of us believe that, especially when that list came out. And I know not enough people were mad about his spot on the list, because his spot should have been a lot higher, because that's how good he is. Because he's a guy who can carry it. And it reminded me of reason why is I'm seeing him stand in the ring and he's going to cut this promo, which we all love his promos. I'm like, there's no other guy that's a champion right now, and I mean no disrespect to anybody else, who, when he comes to the ring in the suit, holding the belt, just about to talk, and that's all he's going to do, that I have my 100%, focus on, because I know something's going to happen. I know he's going to say something. I know he's going to do something that's going to have people talking. And he didn't disappoint. And he's setting the table. There's a lot of guys who are doing different things right now. I know Hangman Adam Page is now a member of the Trios Tag Champions. I know, Swerve Strickland's breathing down his neck, but there's still that stuff with Samoa Joe going on. Like, you have a lot of cool storylines. So the way he's navigating the room, not knowing who his next opponent is perfect. It's real old school. That's why I'm giving him that credit of saying that Ric Flair drip. And here he is. And he says on the mic, and I'm paraphrasing, I am the best in this ring. I am the world champion. And I don't care if you're watching on another channel. If somebody tells you that they are the best in this business, change the channel, because they're lying. And I popped. And I'm going to tell you why. For 3 reasons I popped. Although there's one reason I'm going to give you that one my only detraction. First reason, I love how he first started out by putting AEW first and putting AEW last. What I mean by that is he up front was talking about the locker room and house that he was the best of. And after he made his statement, he then went back and said, because I am the AEW World's Heavyweight Champion. So he put the belt over, which puts the company over.
Right.
Second thing that made me pop was the confidence in the way delivery. He didn't stutter. He stared down the barrel of the camera, wasn't stared off in space, looking at somebody in the stands, said what he needed to say. Very clearly, let you know. And the last thing is he called out everything else without naming any names. You did not put your competition over. Almost did. That was my one detraction. There was a pause between best in the bit. He wanted to say best in the world and almost said best in the world, but very cleverly changed it. And that's why I'm putting it over, because if he says best in the world, now this is a shot at CM Punk, right, who is the world heavyweight champion in WWE. He calls himself the best in the world. You are now taking a shot at CM Punk. Not everybody in wrestling, CM Punk, which means you are now taking a shot at World Wrestling Entertainment. And to me, that lessens what he says, because yes, I always like the philosophy of not mentioning your competition. And for the longest time, AEW would go out there and, oh boy, would they do all the free business for World Wrestling Entertainment. Advertise for days. And lately, they have not been. Ooh. And this continued that streak. Although it poignantly pointed out that if you are a champion elsewhere, I am the real champion, which is good. Puts you and your company over. That was perfect to me. I loved it. I'll dissect a little more, but what did you think of MJF's promo from Dynamite this week?
Well, it tiptoes on the line, because if you go there and you say, best in the world, every one of us is going to be screaming out, and they're just retreading it all over again, the whole CM Punk saga and everything about it. And there's no reason to. Both companies have gone, both companies have gone completely different directions and have both seen great success. CM Punk is the world champion right now. He's having a very solid run. He had an amazing match on Monday night. He looked really good in the match. And Finn Balor was really good in the match. So it's not like Punk's out there phoning it in. He's doing phenomenal work. So, but the two of them, this is one of those kind of like inside baseball type things. The two of them had a really heated feud in AEW, and you can kind of blend some of that stuff in. It builds upon your existing things you did in your wrestling history without crossing a line, that imaginary line. And in this case, not an imaginary line, because if you go best in the world, if you say WWE, any of those things, you kind of lose a little bit. The promo loses a little bit of credibility. So he did a great job navigating. I think the key thing here, though, is you talked about the aura of MJF when he has the belt. And if you think about what MJF was doing last year when he was there and then he took some time away and such, we could have cared less what he was doing, like at all. We didn't understand what he was doing, and then when he came back, he was the one night and then he won the belt. So like there wasn't even any real time to
he came back, won the opportunity to call his shot.
Yeah.
And then he left again because originally he cashed in, but then it was not a cash in, remember, because they did some weird thing that you have to do up front. And then he disappeared again to do another movie. And then he's back. Yeah.
Came back, won the belt. And we were a little critical about that. It's like, he's been gone and they just shows him win the belt. But this is showing that works, because if he had built up some sort of a storyline to really get there and been there, maybe we would have cared, maybe we wouldn't have cared. But he's got the aura with the belt, and maybe when he does eventually lose a belt, that's like the key. I guess what I'm trying to get to is like he has this aura with the belt, and I think the last thing he needs to do to really just cement himself as the guy. And this is not something he can do now because he's got the belt, is he needs to carry that aura over when he doesn't have the belt. And I totally think he can do it. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think the nice part about this is in a time where we were really hoping that AEW would really push the limits and really start putting the best foot forward, which they have been, giving them their credit where credit's due. They just need to keep going. He is the champion you need right now.
Yes.
Because he's going to make that belt more valuable. So the person who wins the belt from him feels even bigger. And then that person, because they'll be a baby face, can now go on a nice baby face run. But you always have the threat of the devil in the background. And that's the one thing, like going back to what we talked about earlier with wins and losses. MJF is a kind of guy proving a point that it don't matter when he wins or loses. It matters what he does in between. And when you put him out there, he's going to deliver. He's going to deliver on the microphone. He's going to deliver in the ring. We can all say that. And I do like how he skirted the line. He has to skirt the line because let's be honest. Unfortunately, due to injuries and things that were out of anybody's control, we got one of the bigger storylines he was involved in with him and Adam Cole cut short. It did not play out the way it was supposed to. We got robbed of probably a really great storyline. So that feud which was a great feud, was a great friendship into a feud, kind of fizzled out, unfortunately, not due to anybody freak accidents, right?
That happens. Yeah.
So that still means, in my opinion, the greatest feud of MJF's career is still him and CM Punk. We're all going to still talk about that. And let's not get it twisted. CM Punk and MJF have no problems with one another.
No.
They mutual respect, a lot of good stuff they did good program together. I'm sure they wish each other well. So with him cutting that promo, it definitely wasn't him going at Punk. And I think smartly, he realized that, oh man, if I do say best in the world, it's going to be directed at Punk. And what he meant is what he said. I want to prove that if there is another champion out there rocking around calling himself the world champion, you need to change that channel because there's only one world champion. And it's me. And I'm like, okay, once again, yourself over, company over, and you're calling out everybody. Nameless enemies. Keep it that way.
This is one of those things where
this is healing.
Yeah, this is one of those things where people might, including us, we might pay attention a little closer to the next CM Punk promo because maybe there is a response back. And if there is one, I think that's a lot of fun. That kind of just goes to show that they do pay attention to each other. And more than likely, they probably do really like each other, and they probably still talk to each other, and that's cool. I like that. It's not a shot. It's not a shot. You will know when it's a shot.
Definitely not. I was going to say we're talking about MJF. If MJF wants to take a shot, he's going to take the shot. Like right. He's not exactly known to be shy about shooting on people. So if he wants to, he's going to do it. All right. Speaking, we're going to stay with AEW, and this is a topic. When I saw this, I'm going to say this up front. I love the fact that all of these people got jobs with AEW. So I'm going to say it up front before I even put the graphic up, because I know that Sammy's going to have a take, and I know that it's not personal against any of the wrestlers involved. It's just a take that you've had, and that's why I saw this. I had to do it. AEW made some all elite signings, and I know some people think I'm doing this tongue in cheek, and I'm not. On one hand, and they've also stoked their tag team division, which it seems that they are trying to rehab. We'll talk more about that. But they added the Rascals, and they've also added Alec Price. We'll talk about that too. We're saving that for last on purpose, but we'll talk about it. Alec Price, and of course Jordan Oliver, Buster in the Brain. We did I threw that picture out there because if you pay attention on their shoulders now, is at the GCW tag team titles, but our good friend Moose and Excite Wrestling, they were the Excite Wrestling tag team champions. So that's why I use that picture. So with that being said, added a couple new tag teams, couple youngs. I've said this before I turn it over to you because I know you're talking track. I'm a fan of the Rascals, have been for some time. Like I said, we'll leave that other part out. I'm not going to shy away from it, but we'll leave that out till the end because I would like to talk about tag team wrestling and the signings. First, obviously, accomplished tag team, accomplished singles wrestlers really does add value, especially in a division where in a company who has a trios title. Also brings it up there. And then you have Alec Price and Jordan Oliver, two really young, talented young men who deserve a shot. And I couldn't be happier. I've been watching Jordan Oliver wrestle since he was a skinny kid in gym shorts, and I've watched him grow into this really, really good professional wrestler. And Alec Price is exciting. He's exuberant. We saw their debut on Dynamite. Crowd, even though some of the crowd didn't know them, got behind them, showing that it's a good decision. Great tag team to add on with two young guys who could also be future stars in the singles division as well, quite easily. So my take on it, and I know where your take is going to go, and I do agree with that, so I'll let you get there. But I do want to say I think that all 5 of these men, used to be 6, now 5, deserve their spot on the AEW roster. So, Sammy, your thoughts on the new signings to All Elite Wrestling?
I am very excited to see for the next couple of weeks these guys on TV and getting some TV time, and hopefully that will extend to a longer period of time on TV. I really hope that they are able to get the opportunity to shine, and I really hope I don't have to start adding some names to the missing in action whiteboard that we have going. And I don't have it in here. It's displayed somewhere else because it's very big now for the amount of people in wrestling, because I don't want to just shoot on AEW. There's a lot of people in wrestling that are missing in action. And, to pivot to the other brand, the other big brand, there was a famous comment made last year by a very high profile executive at WWE saying that we don't bench people. And that was meant to be a shot at Tony Khan. However, where's Rusev? Where are the Street Profits? They kind of look like
that's unfair. Unfair for Rusev.
Like we all know.
Right now. No, but here's the difference. There's a difference between benching and self-benching, and we know Rusev, it's not going to work for me, brother. You can't make that. He's a star. I joke. I kid. No, I agree with you, and I understand that was meant to be a shot. And trust me, I think that there's plenty of benching that goes on by plenty of people. And by the way, Ken M just chimed in. He's watching. They're all joining Don Callis family. We'd be known as Don Callis East.
I thought it was going to be the Don Callis Wolf Pack or something.
Woo! Anyways, yeah. But honestly, I think that these are all young men who deserve a shot. So I hope it's not 2 weeks and done. And I'm with you. I hope it's not. I am also with you 100%. We've said it forever. The roster is bloated. They need to figure out some ways. If they really are looking for tag team wrestling, I mean, it is some good stuff. Here we go. How you doing? Hassan, how you doing? Awesome to see there. So it's a game. Check it out. We're ready to go. It's great to have you in the chat. Of course, we got Ken M doing his best to also talk in the chat. But I also think that this is. I think it's a good opportunity. But I am trepidatious. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm trepidatious about it because I really would like to see everybody do good stuff, man. And Ken just said the same as we were just talking about, is that roster is too bloated. Hopefully they push ROH to give them time. And I've said the same thing. Although I would like to see them make some moves with Ring of Honor. We've often argued this on this show. Steal a page on the WWE book and kind of put more focus on like an NXT and treat Ring of Honor like NXT. Not the same to say it's the same, but you know what I mean? Use it as your NXT, which I really think would help get A, people TV time, and B, really would push the product, because I feel like a lot of times we all think of Ring of Honor as an afterthought because it's treated like an afterthought. Quite frankly.
Yeah. However, to be fair to AEW, it sounds like they are listening, especially to me and you. So maybe that's a next year project. They're going to keep doing the things they're doing now, and then next year that's the project.
If that's the case, sister,
just say it all year. And
I need a contract. If that's the case, I need a contract. I'm not a wrestler. I'm a backstage guy. I'll help out. I'll be an agent. I'll do what I got to do. I'll put back on the booker hat, whatever. I'll be the assistant. It doesn't matter.
If we run into TK again in New York this year, we'll have a conversation with him.
We'll definitely have to. I'm making it up the nice list a little bit more. So maybe that's in my future. Who knows? Stay tuned. I was
always on the nice list.
I don't know. I think you're guilty by you were on the naughty list for guilty by association. Speaking of the naughty list, let's not avoid it, because I don't want to avoid it, but I also don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it, because it is what it is. And that, of course, is When the Rascals were signed, all 4 members were signed. Since then, Trey Miguel's contract has been null and voided. And it looks like the move came from WBD, which this week we found out from the Hollywood Reporter that in fact it's true, because now that the WBD is being shot, WBD owns at least a 10% stake in AEW, which is fine. That is not a shot. That is not anything against it. That is just pointing out the fact. And the reason why we're finding it out. And by the way, Ken M agrees. Sammy is way guilty by association. Hashtag chicken tendy click. Yeah, you're guilty. But anyways, with that being said, I'm just saying that is the thing. I have heard the internet like, he got fired because MJF's wife used to date him. Don't think that's an issue. I don't think that was the issue at all. We know what the issue was. The issue was 7 years ago. He made some very bad social media tweets. Well, I shouldn't say tweets. They were across social media. But he made some really bad choices, poor decisions. And sometimes you have to live with those poor decisions.
Yes.
Things on the internet last forever. My stance on what he was talking about, it should be clear, so I don't need to spell it out. Do I think that people deserve a second chance? Absolutely. However, this time it came back to bite you in your ass, as it should. You had 7 years to make amends and not try to hide it and sweep it under the rug. And you know what's going to happen in the day and age of the internet is that people are going to find it. People can find it. It's there. Even if you deleted it, it's never erased. So knowing this, you should have gotten ahead of this a long time ago, instead of sweeping it under the rug and hoping nobody ever got there. Do I believe that he's the same person as he was 7 years ago, making irresponsible comments on the internet? Absolutely not. I will give that much grace. However, because you never got ahead of it, it has now cost you a great deal of money and now a great deal of respect from the community as a whole. So that is something that Trey Miguel will have to work out on his own. I hope he does. I hope he makes amends. Like I said, I don't believe anything is too, well, I shouldn't say anything. There's some things that are too far to come back from. I do believe that the community that he offended and others who are holding him to task, there is always a way to mend fences and bridges with that group. If you can, I really do believe that. We have seen it before, and we know that one of the bridges for that has been Effie for a long time. And I'm not saying he has to run to Effie to get the blessing, but I'm just saying that Effie has taken other people who questionably said some things that they shouldn't have and helped them really show that they were sorry in a meaningful way. So you need to get with those voices. And there is a lot of LGBTQ plus members of the wrestling family and community that you should help. So I do have faith, and I'm hoping that Trey Miguel can pull that off. Now, with the contract, I get that's why. And I'm telling you, it's the WBD 10%. Wrestling Observer, I don't always give the streets, but one thing I will say is if it's a PR move, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer are going to be the go-to for Tony Khan for that, and for rightful reasons, and they have a loud voice in the community. So when they said that it wasn't a wrestler and it wasn't Tony Khan, it was somebody up the ladder, they're talking about the 10% stakeholder that is WBD and saying you're not putting that on our television because they got wind of it. Once again, mistakes do come back to bite you in your ass. So that's one of the things I would say to any young wrestler or anybody in general is be careful what you put on the internet, because it does not stay on the internet. And I think that that's exactly what happened here, in my opinion. Sammy, you take the stage.
Wrestling has a very, very strong, rich history of, forgiveness and second chances and opportunities. And we even touched on it just a little while ago. Tessa Blanchard's now performing. She's been performing at TNA and doing it in a very solid manner. She has behaved. Someone that could not behave has behaved, and really.
And I want to add to your point.
Yeah,
I want to add to your point too, and that is in the face of the crowd giving her all the shit that they should.
Yes.
So I do want to give her that. She's really living out the rehabbing of her image, because the crowd is not making it easy. And kudos to her for that. But continue, sorry.
Yeah. And that's actually a fantastic point, is that road to, forgiveness, that road to healing, it can be a very, very hard path. And it really boils down to, do you want to do it or not? And I would assume that, he's going to want to do this. He is going to want to continue to wrestle and wrestle at a high level and perform at a high level. And he will go out and do the proper things to seek forgiveness from the community. And, you can be commended for that. And, I hope one day he is able to appear on AEW or in WWE or wherever and be accepted. Own your mistakes.
I think if he would have done this before, owned it before, we wouldn't be talking about this.
No.
I think that and granted, this is why you have to get ahead of things. It's a bad PR move sometimes to just sweep it under the rug, because especially when you're in the public light and you could get signed to a major company, somebody is going to bring it up. It's going to happen.
People are going to do due diligence. There's too much money involved for people not to do due diligence nowadays.
And if you think about it, as much as I love, because I got to work with him, I got to call him a friend, as much as I love Jay Briscoe, rest his soul, that's what kept him off of television, which really sucks, because Jay Briscoe was a special performer. But once again, he was one of those guys. That's why Effie came up. He was one of those guys that when he made amends, he went to Effie, and Effie throughout the community helped him. I mean, hell, the Briscoes wrestled on one of the big gay brunches. So that should tell you just how much you can get acceptance from that community in wrestling. If you own it and you show that you are really like, hey, you know what, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have been that way. So it is possible. It really is. And it's sad to me that it's another talented young man who not only does this taint you in AEW and lost your contract, but now it's not like you're going to be able to just run back to TNA either, because then they got some splaining to do. You can't just go to WWE because they got some splaining to do. You can't just go to Game Changer Wrestling in the indies because then they have some splaining to do.
Right.
So you just bought yourself at least a 6-month vacation if you're smart. And the reason why I say that is because if you wrestle for those companies who don't care, if you wrestle for those companies that are aligned with a certain thought belief, that is career, I can't say the word on YouTube.
That's TV contract, never going to happen again.
Well, it's also major indie, never going to happen again.
Yes.
Because you ain't wrestling for Game Changer Wrestling if you're out here wrestling for the companies who back that, because Game Changer Wrestling has their strong stance. And I'm not just saying, and you're not wrestling for Wrestling Revolver, and you're not wrestling for the CZW's kind of making a comeback. You're not wrestling for any of the big ones, maybe the small ones. You're not wrestling for any of the big ones. And you're definitely not wrestling internationally. Well, maybe internationally in Mexico, because, it's what Tessa Blanchard did, and it worked out for her, I guess, in a way, right? But yeah, going back to it, I didn't want to spend as much. We spent even more time on it than I wanted to. But I think that that's the important thing to realize, is I do think that this came down to things were revealed and then business has to happen. It's just unavoidable. But I will say this in closing, and I don't want to go down the road, but I will say this. This was definitely the wrong week for some of the internet fans to say that we need to bring back Marty Scurll. If you don't know why he got ran out of it, and never got to join his friends in the Elite in AEW, look it up and find out why. I don't think when I said there's some things that you never come back for, there's some things you never come back from.
Yeah.
Just saying. And don't give me Sammy Guevara, because yes, what Sammy Guevara said was heinous, but he also reached out and apologized and did the rehab and paid for it. So it's not like he didn't pay for it. Because I heard a lot of that. Well, if Sammy Guevara could say that, why against Trey Miguel? Why against Marty Scurll? Get out of here. Get out of here. There's so many different things. So many different things. And if I have to explain that to you, I'm sorry that I have to explain that to you. Let's move on, though. Let's get back into wrestling and to close out the show, because we do have a big show coming up this Saturday night. That is right. Saturday night's main event returns from the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, this upcoming Saturday, January 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, it is still on the Peacock, the Peacock, because God knows, I think that's the only thing left on the Peacock at this point in juncture, right? But the 3 matches are announced. Usually the Saturday's main event don't have a ton. There's usually some interview stuff and some things like that. So I'm not surprised here, but all 3 have really big implications. So I think let's go over them and give our picks. Let's start with a singles match that came up from when he lost the title, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, I think who wrestles on every single Saturday's Main Event, by the way, is taking on the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu. Of course, Jacob Fatu cost him the undisputed WWE Championship. Miss Sammy. Who do you got walking out Saturday's Main Event? Your winner in this one.
Samoan Werewolf.
Samoan Werewolf. Honestly, I just wanted to put what Ken said up there because I just got it. Honestly, I want to point this out. I'm going Samoan Werewolf as well. I think this would be a big feather in the cap, big win. Once again, wins and losses don't hurt Cody Rhodes, but it would help Jacob Fatu. Big win over Cody Rhodes puts Jacob Fatu in a really good place. I think that would be solid and super duper. So let's hopefully that happens. Next up, we have the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships on the line. Your champions, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, taking on the number one contenders for that championships, the Judgment Day, Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. And I know we're not fans of the continuation of the Judgment Day storyline, but we are fans of Liv Morgan. And of course, our favorite Roxanne Perez. I am going to go on the limb here. I don't think there's going to be a new yet. I think we're going to have Rhea and Io retain, going in strong to the Rumble, because I expect both of them to have a strong performance in this year's Royal Rumble as well. Maybe start to see the cracks in the facade of their tag team partnership at the Royal Rumble, but still, I think they're going in. Not that I would be against the young women winning from the Judgment Day, but I'm just going to go with Rhea and Io. Your pick, Sammy.
Yeah, to me, this is like a coin toss, and I think whoever ends up losing, those two are going to be feuding come WrestleMania time together. So it's like one or the other. One of these teams is going to be feuding. But I think one thing that's key is that if Rhea and Io retain, I think Liv is a really strong candidate to win the Rumble. Versus if it's the other way, I don't think Rhea and Io are strong candidates to win, as strong of a candidate to win the Rumble. But overall, I think it's going to be new, and I really think that's going to help fuel the end of the Judgment storyline, because I think we might finally see, we talked about Finn, being the one to elevate Dom to be face, but it might be Dom be the one to elevate Finn into a face character.
Well, after Raw, that would be a good one. Because, with great match, and then the show of respect between Finn Balor and CM Punk. You might be onto something. All right, one more match. Main event of the evening, presumably, for it's a fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Of course, Drew McIntyre, your champion. The four-way is Randy Orton, Trick Williams, Damian Priest, and Sami Zayn. Sammy, one of these men will get a shot at the WWE Undisputed Championship in beautiful, lovely, progressive Riyadh, Saudi Arabia at the Royal Rumble. Who do you got walking out as the number one contender at the Royal Rumble?
I'm going big. Trick.
Big and whoop bold. That Trick.
Bold pick.
You think
going with Trick.
You are doing? That's a big bold one, because that would be surprising. I'm going to go.
Refreshing.
It would. But hear me out. I'm going to go with, I'm a guy that lives his life about moments. And wrestling, when done right, is about moments, and one moment to the next. You are in the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. You are going to win a match the following Saturday, as a matter of fact, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. There is only one person in this match that electrifies both crowds and will give you two giant moments if done right. But you have to do it right. I am going with, hopefully they get their heads out of their asses and they stop being creatively bankrupt to look at the creative that's staring them right in the face. That would also be refreshing and a fresh look. because you could have Sami Zayn, and I know this is an easy line fruit, win the Fatal 4-Way in his hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, to a thunderous pop, to have him go to Saudi Arabia, where as a Muslim, we already know, seeing him before in Saudi Arabia, he is now a hero. He's the reason CM Punk is even willing to go to Saudi, as we found out. And you could have him become the WWE Undisputed Champion in Saudi Arabia in front of, I think that they're saying 40,000 plus is what it's looking like, something like that, because they're building this thing on their own. I don't know if you saw that. They're building this stadium.
It depends on how complete it is.
But once again, they're saying that, but even if not, I mean, think about how loud the crowd would be for him winning. Now, granted, somebody would be like, well, Drew McIntyre would just be a transitional champ. Drew McIntyre doesn't matter wins or losses. He's Drew McIntyre. You could put over Sami Zayn. Think about it. You put over Sami Zayn, and now we're off to the races for WrestleMania season. Remember what I was saying about WrestleMania season being kind of Well, now you've made WrestleMania season fresh, because now you have a lovable face champion in Sami Zayn, who presumably would be defending that title at WrestleMania, and you could build up a litany of guys to get a shot at that belt. If you think about it, it writes stuff, and like you said, it'd be refreshing. And yes, I know it's the easy story, but sometimes the KISS method works. When I got into wrestling, the legend that is Steve King told me, keep it simple, stupid. I know they've changed that a little bit for people's, but it's the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Sami Zayn could be two gigantic moments. When we think about a company that dives themselves on moments, all of us fans like moments. Those moments will live forever on video, forever. You can put them in packages. The pop you're going to get, it's going to be that visible pop. They will probably drop the ball on it. If they do, I'm with you. I would hope it would be Trick, because I would love to see the Saudis whoop that Trick.
Well, and if you think about it, you could think about it the other way. A hot crowd in Montreal for Sami Zayn, and he's the one that eats the pin. That builds some good heat for whoever is the one pinning him.
But I think we've had the lovable loser for long enough. And I get they gave him a good win. And granted, WrestleMania 40, he defeated the unbeatable Gunther, and that was part of that storyline. But then after he did that, he went back to being the lovable loser pretty much. I mean, I feel like it's one of those times, the proverbial shit or get off the pot. We've said this a long time. The crowd really would like a Sami Zayn title run. Doesn't necessarily have to be a forever title run, but it'd be nice to see him get rewarded with a championship, and it would be fresh because he hasn't had it. And you could create two giant moments, is all I'm saying. The booker in me goes, I would do it just for the pop. And because Drew McIntyre going into WrestleMania is not exciting me currently. I don't know who is exciting. And I'm not saying anything bad about Drew McIntyre. We love Drew McIntyre. But right now I'm looking down, what, is he going to face LA Knight again? Cody Rhodes gets his rematch? But you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I would love to see LA Knight, but once again, it's still, it's weird. It's wild to me. But I digress. We'll find out this Saturday night at Saturday's main event. Of course, we'll talk about it next week right here on the show. But we ran a little bit over, but not much. And I'm going to try to get out of here. So thank you all for tuning in. Whether you watch this live or on the replay, we really appreciate it. Every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the FLZ Zone YouTube channel, and of course, Twitch and X. You can find the show, but make sure you get over to the YouTube channel if you're not watching us there, because other videos, especially when we do the Royal Rumble pre-show extravaganza, is only going to be on YouTube. It's going to be a recorded video on YouTube that comes out the Friday before the Royal Rumble. So you're going to want to make sure, which would be next Friday, so you're going to want to make sure you are subscribed to the FLZ Zone YouTube channel and smash that notification bell so you can get notified when those live videos and everything else goes. Plus, you're going to want to check out all the great comic book coverage we have, including New Comic Book Day Kickoff, including FLZ Zone Presents, which we have a huge interview dropping tomorrow morning for FLZ Zone Presents with some really awesome creators. So you want to stay tuned for that and so much more. So make sure you head over, do the homework, go to FLZzone.com, and really, I'm going to put the QR code up and really just kind of make sure you check out everything going on. You want to be a part of it. Follow them all the social medias because we got some big stuff planned. Help us defeat the algorithm and join the revolution. So with that being said, for myself and Sammy one more time. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk all things pro wrestling live. And if you're watching us on replay, thank you so much. Leave those comments as well. Until then, for myself, for Miss Sammy over there, guess what? Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And most importantly, later, wrestling fans.